In this video, I'm going to be sharing tons of small town romance recommendations. I feel like I love reading books that are just like a small town vibe in the fall. I also have shared tons of other videos like this with like specific recommendations. Make sure you subscribe because there's new videos every single day for the entire month of October. And comment below what like video recommendation videos you guys want. Maybe like enemies to lovers, friends to lovers trope. Like literally let me know what you want and I will share a video like that for you with tons of recs, and let's just get into this video. The first romance book recommendation that is like a small town vibe that I feel like you guys will love is Flawless by Elsie Silver. Now I do think that there was a lot of spice in this, so definitely keep that in mind, but the writing was so easy to read. I flipped through this so fast. I will say this probably wasn't my favorite, and I actually have the rest of the series because I want to read it, but I'm a big like believer in if I enjoy the writing from an author, then I'll probably enjoy one of their books. I just think that the main character in this book wasn't my favorite. His name was Rhett, and I did really like Summer, who was the other main character. This book is about Rhett, who he's pretty much just like super reckless. Like he just does whatever he wants, and he actually is a professional bull rider, and his like PR team is like, you know what, you need a babysitter, like you are too wild. And so the PR team, the manager of the PR team asked his daughter to like go and pretty much fix his reputation, and they end up like having a thing for each other, and it is really cute. And again, the writing is so quick, you'll finish it super fast, and that's why I know I'm gonna love like the rest of the series. And I heard that book 2 is actually the best book or one of the best books in the series, so I'm excited to get to that one. This is another author whose writing is so easy to get through. I've read both of these books and they are thick, and you guys know how I feel about like long romance books. I think these books are like 552 pages for this one, and the other one I feel like is pretty close, and yeah, like 570. So they're definitely thick books, but I got through them really fast. Again, I do think that the writing of this book makes it so easy to read that I just like gobbled it up super fast. I ended up falling in love with the town of Knockemout, which is the small town that these two books are set in. The third book actually just came out this year, and I just bought it because the author of these books, like the writing is just so quick, and you'll just like finish it so fast. There's a lot of dialogue, and I feel like these are just really fun small town books that everyone has loved and just like been loving and talks about. I guess I could say like what the books are about. So this one is about Naomi, and she's taking care of herself but pretty much like on the run, and she ends up running to this small town, and that's where she meets Knox, who he's like broody. Honestly, I wasn't a fan of Knox really because he's like 40 and I feel like kind of acts a little immature, but if you like those guys who are like super like gruff and like maybe chops wood, I feel like you'll definitely like this book a lot. And then this book is about his brother. The next book that gives small town vibes is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. And I talk about this book so much. This book was a 5 out of 5 star for me. I love Kennedy Ryan's writing. I've read other books by her and they're just so good, but I think this one I really like because they end up going to like a picnic in this like book, and it just gives those like Gilmore Girls-esque vibes. It's also written by a Black author, which you guys know I love reading diverse reads. I think that this book is also a powerhouse of a book because it will make you feel so many emotions. If you guys have followed me over on TikTok or Instagram, you guys will have seen the video of my friend reading this book and literally sobbing her eyes out. It's about a couple who they actually divorce, and they divorce for a reason that's like actually really sad, but they keep gravitating towards each other, and so they're thinking like maybe we should get back together. They have kids involved, but they've been divorced I think for like a few years, and this book kind of comes in when they're like, I don't know, starting to maybe have feelings for each other. And Yasmin and Josiah are the two main characters' names. It is really good. They own their own like restaurant, so they like co-own it together. Then they also have kids. So there's a lot of things that they're trying to like balance, but I love this because everyone in the town like knows each other, and again they go to like a little picnic, and it's like, it's just a vibe. I don't want to spoil anything, but I feel like you'll really like this one for autumn. The book that is definitely set in a small town is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I love this book, and I feel like there's a ton of hype around it, but the hype is definitely there for a reason. It is a really good book. It's about a girl who runs away to the small town of Pelion, and she goes there because she's like running from something, and she ends up meeting this guy Archer who he like doesn't speak. He like pretty much just like stays away from everyone. So she's just like, what's his deal? I kind of want to know more about him, but everyone's like, stay away from him, like he's weird. And so of course she does not listen to anyone in the small town. She ends up getting to know him and sparks fly, and it is really good. And then you end up finding out like what she's running from, and it is just a book that will really like play at your heartstrings. This reminds me of kind of like Where the Crawdads Sing. I haven't read the book, but I did watch the movie, where she kind of like lives out by herself and like fends for herself and doesn't really talk to anyone. And that's kind of Archer, but like flipped. And they end up like, I don't know, really connecting. So she has to like teach him how to like connect with other people. It's just like a really, really sweet book. If you like soft boys and like boys that are just like really emotional and like heartfelt and sweet, you'll really love Archer's Voice. The Two of Us by Taylor Torres is a book that is actually by an indie author, and I love supporting indie authors because, I don't know, I just feel like if I wrote a book and I shared it, I would want people to read it, and I wouldn't want people to be like, oh, like it's not in Barnes or whatever, like so I'm not gonna read it. But this book has had so much hype, and literally for a reason. It is about Ambrose King and Mara, and Ambrose King lives in this like super small town where Mara is actually from, and she like ran away from the town and went to a big city because she was trying to like get away from something, and she ends up coming back because there's a family emergency. And while she's there, Ambrose is literally right there like, I have missed you, like why did you run away, why did you leave me? And it says on the back that it says she wants to avoid Ambrose King at all costs, but that might prove difficult considering he lives right across the street. That alone, like, hopefully will make you want to read it, but it gives small town vibes because it's in a small lake town in Maine. And so she's literally gone for 7 years, and you get to see why she ended up coming back. Love this book so much. And the like little quote that's right here says, sometimes holding on to pain means letting go of love. Oh, this book, I remember rating this 4 stars because I loved it so much. So I feel like you guys will really like this one too. Final Offer by Lauren Asher is actually the 3rd book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, and I read the entire series, and you guys see, this book is thick, like thick. If you look at this one, it's definitely a lot smaller, thick, but I finished these so fast. If you are someone who wants to read books with lots of dialogue, definitely read this. I rated the whole series 4 stars. All the books I love so much. They're about 3 different brothers, and their grandfather passes away, and he passes away and gives them like a ton of money, and it's like, you guys can get all this money, but you have to do these specific things. So each guy has like this challenge that the grandfather makes them do. And in this book, this is about Callahan, and his challenge is to go back to this small town where he was like living for a while and purchase his old home that he like used to live in. But he finds out that his ex-girlfriend Alana actually owns the home, and she like is so mad at him because he left on bad terms and they used to be together. And so you get to see him trying to like figure things out, figure himself out, and figure out like why this was like his challenge, and it is really sweet. Again, this one is super thick, but if you like dialogue, start the first one. The first one is called The Fine Print. They're all really good, but this one is the one that's set in a small town. Drunk on Love by Jasmine Gullery is a book that I love. I've actually read 3 books by this author because I love her books so much. And this book is about a girl, her name's Margot, and she owns a winery, and she's like worked really hard to get to that point. I don't actually know if this is set in a small town, but it definitely gives like small town vibes. I'm pretty sure it's set in a small town. Yeah, it says, oh, it's actually not. Okay, so it's not set in a small town, but it definitely gives small town vibes because it says the small world of Napa, but Napa I think is like pretty big. I don't really know. I have no concept of like geography, but Luke Williams, he actually lives in Silicon Valley, and he leaves and moves back to Napa. And so he's leaving this like big city area to go to somewhere that gives small town vibes. And I think I like this one so much because the owner of the winery is a woman, and she's like literally the boss, like just every kind of boss that you want to see in a book. Like she's like the best. And she ends up hooking up with this guy at a bar, and she's just like, you know what, it's a one-night stand, I never do this. They have an electrifying night, it is incredible. Come to find out the next day that her brother, who is like her co-owner of the winery, hired him to work at the winery. So the whole time she's like, I literally hooked up with him last night, like what am I supposed to do? And it is just so good. The guy's name again is Luke Williams, and he like ends up working there for a while, and they try to like stay away from each other, they keep getting pulled back to each other. It is just really good. Again, I love this author, and it's also a Black author, so again, I love reading diverse reads. I think this is a really good one. I recently read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez and Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Loved both of these books. Ate both of these up in less than, I think, 24 hours because they were just that good. These are both set in a small town, and the first book is about Alexis. Well, I guess the second one I don't think is set in a small town, but they do end up going back to the small town because these are an interconnected series. The first book is about Alexis, who her car breaks down, and she ends up getting help in this small town by this guy named Daniel Grant. He is just like, he's a little, you know, just like small town guy, like loves simple things, and she's coming from this like big city. She's like a doctor, super wealthy and rich, and he just like doesn't care about any of that. And so while they're in this small town, he really shows her like the beauty of a small town and just like connecting with people and not like putting work above everything else, and they end up falling for each other, but they're literally from two different worlds. And so you really get to see like how that whole dynamic works out because they're from such different places and they're so different. And then Yours Truly is actually about Alexis' best friend, Brianna, who she is a doctor in the same city where Alexis works, and she is like trying to get this promotion, and while she's trying to get this promotion, she meets this guy who may or may not be taking her position that she's like really working towards. His name is Jacob. So she gets like kind of, her feathers are ruffled. She's just like, he's coming in from this other like town, he wants to take my job, like I'm the best doctor here, everyone loves me, I should get the position, I'm like tenured. And he ends up being like, whoa, I never actually wanted to get this position, and he sends her letters to like explain how he feels because he has a hard time sharing his thoughts. If you love like a soft boy, I feel like this is definitely the book to read. And again, they end up going back to the small town and they like reconnect there, and there's like a one bed trope in there. And they go to the small town. Both are so good. I read both of these in less than 24 hours and rated both 4.5 stars. And by Kate Catterberry is a small town romance that I really enjoyed. This one kind of reminds me of the Knockmount series. So if you've read the Knockmount series that I was showing you guys earlier, I feel like you'll really like this one. And this says Shay, her step-grandmother, dies, and she left Shay a tulip farm under two conditions. First, Shay has to move to the small town of Friendship, so it's very, very small. It's in Rhode Island. And then second, it says that she must be married within the year. And so she ends up like having this marriage of convenience with a guy who she like knew growing up. His name's Noah, and he's always loved her like ever since high school. He's always had a thing for her, but she doesn't even know that. It literally says it on the back, so I promise I'm not spoiling anything. So they have this like fake dating situation, and he's a single dad at this point. And it says that she comes back to the hometown and turns his life upside down because pretty much she's like, hey, I need some help here. But while they're fake dating, he's like, I really care about her. And he's like hoping she grows feelings and is trying to like share how he feels without being like too like scaring her away. It is really good. Again, this one is a little long, and it does kind of feel long. Like the other long books, I feel like I breezed through pretty fast. This one took a little bit longer, but it definitely gives the small town vibes and is really good. The last small town book that I have to share is Booklovers by Emily Henry. This one is really good. It's about Nora Stevens, who she works in like the book publishing era. I don't know if she's like an editor or something. I think she's a literary agent, that's what it says. And she agrees to go to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina for the month of August when her sister begs her to go for like a sister's trip because her sister's like, we need some small town vibes. You need to get away from the big city. You need to relax. And while she's there, she ends up meeting this guy who is her brooding editor from back in the big city, and they just like don't get along like at all, but in this smaller town they end up connecting with each other. And it's a super cute book. And again, small town romances I feel like just hit different in autumn. And if you've never read anything from Emily Henry, I feel like this one is a good one to read. I would say probably read Beach Read first. That's like probably my all-time favorite, and Happy Place is like really good too. But I did enjoy this one, and I feel like there's so much hype around this book, so I had to share it. And that is all the books set in a small town that I had to share. If you guys want more book recommendation videos like books by Black authors or thriller book recs, which those are some of the book recommendation videos I've shared, let me know. I will also link all those below, like the specifically dedicated book videos that I've shared with tons of recs, because I feel like you guys always really like those. And I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next one, because it is Booktober, so there's videos every single day. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this one and enjoy all the videos to come. Bye guys!